Hi everyone, we are Group 6. Our topic is Trust in Science. I'm Dana Zakarian. My group mates are Ani Bagratyan, Arina Bostanjan, and Arthur Poesyan. Starting with the introduction, our research question is trust levels among different generations regarding the media ads that support science communication. And speaking of the background, so we believe that in today's digital world, media and ads play a big role in how people see science. But there is also a worry how much we can trust what we see, especially among different generational groups, and those different generational groups see science differently. So figuring out how this trust levels is important for advertisers, media, and science communicators. So specifically, we are going to investigate how media and advertisement influence these perceptions, and our goal is to explore how these factors shape trust levels in science among different generational groups. Now, our methodology. So first, we wanted to gather 100 and 150 answers from these people from 12 to 78 years old, all genders from Armenia, and people who have at least some interest in science. Our research is going to be descriptive research because to understand different perceptions and trust levels of different generational group regarding media and advertisements. And for this research, we have collected surveys and focus groups. For the surveys, we wanted to measure the trust level, media consumption habits, and perceptions of science across generational groups. And for the focus groups, we wanted to get answers from older people, and to collect and explore attitudes, beliefs, and experiences related to science and media in depth. And we also wanted to include different people from different backgrounds for immediate results. That's it. Now Ani will continue.
Thank you, Diana Jan. I will talk about implementation, and I want to explain how we collected the data. So initially, we shared survey and Google Forms, gathered approximately 78 responses, mainly from younger generation, and this was a problem for us. That is why we also created a focus group to collect data from older generations, like Generation X. So we primarily collected our survey data from social media platforms, like sharing the link in our pages like Instagram, Telegram, and Facebook. And also we established a focus group, as I already said, consisting of 12 generation members. Can you please switch the slide? Thank you. So now I will talk about the results. Firstly, the first question was, please specify the year range in which you were born. And this is where we noticed that we have a lot of people from Generation Z in the survey. The other part, the pie chart, is the responses of the focus group. And we, as I said, collected 12 Generation X members. So you can see the percentages. The other slide, please. Thank you. So this is the specific age range. So 64 from 78 responses were from 18 to 24 age range. And in focus group, as I already mentioned, a lot of people were from 55 to 75, and the other part of the people were from 45 to 54. And the other result is about the gender. Yes. So as we already know, females like to do surveys. That is why we mainly collected female data. So in the survey, we can see a lot of percentage from female votes, and this is approximately 88.5%. And we also tried to gather male responses too. That is why we collected male responses from the focus group. So now Arthur will continue and share our data with you.
Thank you, Anijan. Now I will continue on our questions regarding their education, and later we will go on the questions about their trust in science. So, what is your highest level of education? Mostly people had highest degree as bachelors, and for the focus group, 40% of them had completed their higher education. Which of the following describe your employment status? In the survey, as Ani mentioned already, we had mostly from 18 to 24, so most of them were students, and some of the students also had a part-time and full-time employment, and some of them were already graduated, working in full-time positions, nearly 37.2% of them. For the focus group, Generation X, most of them were employed full-time. So we had 3 participants unemployed, and we had some people working self-employed and part-time. This is a very interesting thing we learned. For the survey, we had 88.5% of people learning on the primary source of scientific advancement, social media platforms and online website. But for the focus group, we had newspapers and television because people tend to check there more often. Is it important for ads to prove what they say is true? For the survey, we have nearly 50% of results saying it's very important, and for the focus group activity, Generation X mentioned that it's moderately important. Most answers. On the scale of 1 to 5, how interested are you in scientific topics and technological advancement, with 1 being the least interested and 5 most interested? As we mentioned in our implementation part, we wanted to include some people who will have the minimum amount of interest, and here we have 40% in the survey that they are moderately somehow a bit interested. And for the for our focus group, people tend to not be interested that much, although we try to collect people who might be more interested. How often do you find advertisements promoting scientific products or services to be trustworthy? Survey said that it's sometimes, and focus group also, the average answer was sometimes. Do you think that different generations are equally trustful to advertisement? Our survey results from the younger generation was mostly no. And for the focus group was also no. They also understand that different generations react differently. And how would you rate your overall level of trust in science on scale from 1 to 5? 42% of our survey results said that they are trustful, we can say, not extremely, but strongly. And in the focus group, we had nearly equal amount of results in each position, on averaging 25%. Which sources do you trust the most for scientific information? We have educational institutions highest because they tend to provide the trustworthy information. We had the second places as government agencies, and of course social media, because our group, our target group, were mostly from Gen Z. In your opinion, based on checked information beforehand, we have 41% on the survey, and we have not very interested in the focus group. And not to take too much time, I will skip on our conclusion part, what we think and what correlation we saw mostly that we understand. This is the general graph that we did, and we think that generational trust in science and information check were mostly correlated in the part that each generation tends to check information and believe information on the source that is trending during their generation. For example, Generation X mostly mentioned that they trust and they look for scientific information and advancement on newspapers and TVs because this is their time phases boom. And for the Generation Z, we see that people mostly check website and internet and social media. Because nowadays our generation mostly thinks that TV is very controlled. There's no too much free speech there, and everything can be put it as advertisement or putting not what's to the customers' needs, but for the products or the advancements, because they used to control the media there, and the control is higher. This is one of the biggest correlation we saw in the generational part, and also we see that most of our focus group and surveys participants were women. We also saw that women tend to check those informations more frequently. Men do not react neither to surveys too much nor the scientific news. And this is our overall survey that we did, summed up here, our general data, our means of 3.7 and 3.71, and our general numbers of participants. Now Arina will continue me on our research limitations.
Yes, so next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first research limitation that we faced with is a limitation of our sample size. It was relatively small, only 78 respondents, where we forecasted to have 100 to 150 responses. Another one is sampling method, as it was not random. We faced with biases. For example, as it was already mentioned, majority of our respondents are representative of Generation Z and are females. And the last limitation is time constraints, limited time to conduct thorough research caused in incomplete analysis. Next slide. And next. Okay, so some of the important findings I wanted to highlight. So the first one is that, as it was already mentioned, so representatives, we noticed that representatives of Generation Z tend to learn about scientific advancements primarily through social media platforms, while representatives of Generation X tend to learn about scientific advancement through traditional media forms such as TV. Also, the trust rate overall among Generation Z is relatively high. It rates at 3 to 4 on the scale of 1 to 5, which is relatively high. Also, we noticed that some people think and encountered conflicting information about scientific topics from different sources, and those who encountered this conflicting information, their overall trust towards science is relatively low. It ranges from 2 to 3 approximately. Okay, next slide. So our recommendations is to develop communication strategies that are tailored primarily for the certain generation needs and preferences. For instance, for Generation Z, they prefer engaging and interactive content on digital platforms, while older generation, as it was already mentioned, they trust more of traditional media sources such as newspapers and television. And the one more recommendation is to promote partnerships between scientific communication and trusted media outlets to provide accurate and reliable information, making it more accessible and understandable for the general public. That's it. This is our appendix, and thank you.